If you search the web for science and one variable at a time, you'll find many sites advocating for only changing one thing at a time in experiments. Some will even list this as a tenet of the scientific method. Personally, I think there are times to change one variable at a time, and times to change every variable at once. Here, we'll talk about why you might want to change all the variables at once. In later videos, we'll talk about how to do that effectively. If you've had any training in science, you've probably heard at some point that there are three kinds of variables. Independent variables are changed to look for effects. A dependent variable is the result of changing the independent variable. Controlled variables are kept constant to measure the result. In other words, independent variables are the cause in the experiment, and dependent variables are the effect. Everything else is controlled to try and draw this relation. When you don't know much about a new system that you're studying, changing one variable at a time is a good idea. It lets you see what is actually affecting the outcome of the experiment, identifying important variables and allowing you to disregard unimportant ones. It is certainly true that you should do some of this first to find out what variables are important. What usually isn't mentioned is that this is a terrible way to optimize and learn more about the system once you know the variables that affect it. Changing one variable at a time, once you know what variables are important, can miss important relationships between the variables that you can only realize by systematically adjusting multiple things at a time. In other words, sometimes what we think are independent variables are actually interdependent variables, so we need to figure out how they affect one another.